Well, welcome everyone. There are more people to come, I'm sure, but you are obviously the most important people who needed to be part of this conversation. So thank you for joining us, and we are going to start on time because we know your time is valuable and we have a big conversation or two to get through this evening. My name is Kat Matson. I'm the Manager of Economic and Community Development here at Ipswich City Council, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to this Ipswich Central Business Briefing. Now, before I get started, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, and in doing so acknowledge the thousands of generations of elders, past, present and emerging, who have collaboratively designed their spaces and collaboratively built communities here on this land. I'd also like to acknowledge our Mayor, Teresa, who we will hear from shortly, Councillor Andrew Fechner, Councillor Russell Milligan. Did I miss any other councillors? No. Some other councillors do send their apologies. I won't list them. I'd also like to acknowledge our guest speakers this evening, Beck and Brooke, who you're going to hear from later. Before I get started though, I do want to just give a quick overview of why these events exist and how this one is different to the one that you attended last month, if you did, because I can see some familiar faces. So tonight we're going to have an update from Beck from the YMCA about the new vocational school. All about that shortly. And then we're going to hear from Brooke about the Ipswich Central Revitalisation project that we are deeply engaged in at the moment to better understand what you want from Ipswich Central and how we bring that to life together. We hope to have you out of here on time by 7 o'clock. But I can't guarantee that because I reckon the conversation's going to get pretty juicy. And so it might be that things run over a little bit of time. If you need to leave though, of course, do so. We won't be insulted at all. Thank you for the reminder to silence phones. Of course, you're welcome to tweet, to take photos, to Instagram, do whatever you like. But we just ask that you keep them on silent just so you don't distract the speakers. Finally, housekeeping. If you need to find the bathrooms, you can either go out this side door here or go back out the door that you came in. The bathrooms are generally in that direction, so you just loop around and you will find them. In the event of an emergency, head back out the door that you came in and follow the instructions of the event staff. Please help yourself to drinks at the bar. It's a cash bar for alcohol and it's a non-cash bar, as in it's on us, for soft drinks. I think that's it for the housekeeping. Yep, I'm getting the nod at the back of the room. So with that, I'd like to hand over to Mayor Teresa Harding to kick us off this evening.
Thank you so much, Kat. And it's probably one other acknowledgement I'd like to make. You have our acting CEO, Sonia Cooper, who's also here as well. So it's great to see, I guess, Sonia here as well. And it just goes to show how important all of you are and for us to hear from you as we work through today's collaboration. The Central District means so much to Ipswich, from St Mary's Church to Limestone and Brisbane Streets to the Commonwealth Hotel, and so many wonderful places that really remind us of the deep history we have in this city. I look at Gerard Pender. How many years has your business been going? 145 years. 145 years. But also need to remind ourselves that there are people with newer businesses. Jackie, how long has your business been going? 2 weeks. So I lucked in meeting you tonight. In the old building, in the old Walker Pender building, two lawyers. I think it just goes to show what a mix we have in our businesses from the 2-week-old to 145, but also so many different industries. We have approximately 325,000 new residents that are going to be joining us in Ipswich over the next 2 decades. We need to have great services and products and a great atmosphere here for now, but also as we grow. Small businesses are at the very centre of our economy here in Ipswich. There are over 10,000 registered businesses in Ipswich, and in 2018, the small businesses across Australia represented 44% of relevant private sector employment. The challenge is to keep our economy ahead of the upcoming growth. Council's role is to listen to businesses and community groups and connect your needs with the investment agenda across government and the private sector. The Ipswich Central Revitalisation project is a great opportunity to work closely with our community hubs and job creators. It's a great opportunity to shape the city you want to see. There are so many stories to tell our passionate and proud community over the coming months. We're inviting Ipswich residents to have their say online at Shape Your Ipswich or at one of our upcoming community engagement events. Again, I know that every single person in this room, as I look around, is very busy. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to being part of tonight with you. Thank you.
Hands up who's seen me speak here in Ipswich in the last year or so. Yes, the Mayor's hand goes up. Hands up who's heard me talk about the whole concept of a studio clap. So yeah, that's it. So one of the things that happens in a big room but with a small crowd, thank you COVID, is rounds of applause sound really kind of pathetic. So what you do is you double the speed. So when we do our next applause, I want everyone to do a real double fast. So just test it out now. Do double speed, really fast, really fast. See, it doesn't sound so... And it just makes everyone feel better. And you know, it's Tuesday night and we could all be doing a lot of other things, so let's have some fun. Next speaker is Beck from the YMCA. Now, this is one of the most exciting projects that I have seen to date in Ipswich Central because it touches on so many of the things that we hold dear: community, education, young people, and revitalising old assets. So would you please welcome Beck Aldermack from the YMCA to let us know about a new project that's opening up with a studio clap in Limestone Street.
Thank you for that amazing round of applause. So my name's Beck Andlemack and I'm the Community Services Manager for YMCA Social Impact. I'm also an Ippy girl, born and bred, and I'm super passionate about the Ipswich community. So this project is one of 8 of centres that I look after, but I have to say it's probably a bit of a pet project of mine because it's so close to my heart and my home. So how many of you know the old Villa Maria? Pop your hand up. How many of you have been wondering what is going on there? Yes? Okay, great. So before I go any further though, I'd like to acknowledge the Yagara language tribes as traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting tonight. I'd like to thank elders past for their strength and passion in helping us to learn. And I look forward to working with elders current and emerging to continue to work towards reconciliation and closing the gap. So, what is a vocational school? So what we've been building or refurbing at the old Villa Maria, which I affectionately call the Villa, is a youth space community centre with an embedded vocational school. So the vocational school will be a senior campus for years 10 to 12. Vocational schools are also known as special assistance schools. I really don't like that name, but what does that mean? Special assistance schools mean that we support students who are disengaged from education, and that can be for a wide variety of reasons. Some of those reasons include mental health, bullying, trauma, and involvement in the youth justice system. So what does a vocational school look like? And I think for most of you here tonight, that's probably the question on your lips. So I've just grabbed a couple of videos that our, what I should say is our Villa Maria or the Villa campus will actually complement our junior campus, which is currently operating from the Bendamba TAFE. And so these couple of videos have been generated by students who are at our Bendamba TAFE. So this is what we do in our schools.
Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Keith, aka Total Eclipse from Brooklyn, New York, here at the Ipswich YMCA Vocational School, and I am so happy, to be here and to help enrich the minds, of
amazing are those kids? Some of those kids struggled to walk through the door to go to school, and here they are being interviewed on camera for videos that they knew would be shown at things like this. And that's what makes me really proud of our vocational schools. My passion is the community side of our sites, and the Villa Maria outside of school hours, or the Villa as I love to call it, will become a community space with a youth focus. So the beauty of that is that we'll have spaces that community groups are able to access. We'll also be able to run private functions, and we'll be running programming for young people within that space as well. Very excited that our new coordinator will be starting there in mid-July, and really bringing that space alive for the community and helping to bring community back into Ipswich to appreciate what an amazing area we have. So I just wanted to show you a little bit of what one of our community spaces looks like in North Lakes.
It's important that young people have a voice and actually have an opportunity to turn that voice into action, turn their ideas into action.
Empowering youth is about giving them the support and the resources that they need to actually really empower themselves. It's not just about material things, it's also about belief in themselves and about having the confidence to know that they can achieve things, they can be successful, and that feeling of success is awesome and it's worth going after.
So essentially, we really work with giving a feeling of self-worth, empowerment, and a real opportunity, and that's, at the cornerstone of where we're at.
So as for the space as a youth worker, my main skill set involves around anything that's visual arts, audio, a little bit of film related and stuff like that.
That's just something that we're working on at the moment. She's only 13, the one that's starting to break the rules.
They allow me to be part of their journey. It's a pretty powerful thing when someone around you speak into their life and they take guidance and you learn from them also. So you think you're going to help someone, empower someone, and they end up impacting your life also. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, my mama, she told me be true to who you are. So what is it when I watch you send me off going far? Walk around all the streets at night, wondering why you put up a fight. So I thought maybe this is the end. Write a note to my brother and my friend. Turned out it wasn't my fate. I made my decision too late. But you don't give a damn. But you don't give a damn.
So that young lady was 13 when she wrote those lyrics, and her engagement with the YMCA has been nothing but positive. She ended up graduating from the YMCA with her senior certificate. Amazing turnaround. So this is what we have planned for the villa, and for those of you who've been watching it develop, I thought I might show you some pictures from inside, because today I got the keys. And so we'll be opening the doors in term 3 to the vocational school, and the community aspect of the centre will be opened around that time as well. So here's some photos from the villa. I just put a couple in here. It's our reception and one of the learning spaces. So, do you have any questions for me? Absolutely. Isn't it beautiful? At this point in time, we've left the chapel predominantly as it is, but we do plan on using it as assembly area in the mornings and a function space. We've just kitted it out with a new sound system and some big screens. But in terms of the integrity of the building, it's such a beautiful space. We've left it looking as beautiful as it did. At this point in time, we do year 7, senior, so 7 to 9 and 10 to 12. I know we would love to do primary, but not there yet. The kinds of facilities for the community. Yep, so there'll be office spaces, meeting rooms, and then the chapel will also be available for, a space as well. Really excited. Any other questions? Absolutely, and no disrespect to the education system, but I don't think it does cater to everyone, and we fill a space, and I think it's greatly needed, so thank you. Yeah. Absolutely.
Any other questions for Beck?
Thank you.
Oh, yep, we've got another one.
So would you be having also volunteers, like people who want to?
Absolutely, we will. Yeah, absolutely, we will be opening our doors to volunteers. We love volunteers.
Your music teacher?
Look, and I'm not creative at all, so these guys who can do that stuff are absolutely amazing. My strength is elsewhere.
Any last questions going once?
I suppose, yeah. In regards to what they're doing, evidently there's projecting, sound engineering and singing and things like that. Are there plans for those, or are they already sort of doing concerts in-house and maybe then promoting it to the general community?
So
Questions around whether or not the students will be performing back to the community.
So some of our spaces, like the space at North Lakes and the Ridge at Acacia Ridge, have done things like band shows, youth week events, whole stage shows. Our Amplify team from our Ridge have actually been out at Ipswich State High and done some work with students teaching them sound engineering and things like that. So they definitely do come up with amazing projects and deliver them back to community, absolutely. Come find me.
I'm full of lots of ideas on
Okay.
parameters, so I've got some ideas for you.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Anything
Thank
else?
you so much, Beck. Studio clap for Beck. I started my career 20-odd years ago, let's go with 20-odd years ago, in pre-employment programs for long-term unemployed youth. We used to take the young people out into the wilderness for a 7-day program where they covered about approximately 150 kilometres, mountain bike riding, abseiling, walking, canoeing, then a life skills component that was residential, and then a 3 weeks work skills component. And it's actually one of the reasons why I personally love the fact that Ipswich created a economic and community development function that I get to lead, because it brings together those two elements of, if you can nurture young people, and if you can nurture young people who are struggling to find a home in traditional pathways, then you actually create economic benefit, because these young people who go through a vocational school come out, one, with a level of creativity that they don't necessarily learn in traditional schooling, but they then start businesses of their own. I won't ask you to put your hands up because it is a small room, but I'm going to hazard a guess that many of the entrepreneurs and business owners in this room didn't necessarily get A's all the way through school. And so what I love about having this vocational school in Limestone Street, in Ipswich Central, is that's not only going to bring an opportunity for our young people, but it's going to bring a vibrancy into Ipswich Central, which is just so juicy. So thank you, Beck, and thank you to the YMCA. So next is a conversation about what we're doing with Ipswich Central. Now, I said earlier that I was going to explain how tonight is different to the one that you attended last month, the Ipswich Central Business Briefing. Well, obviously there's not a panel, but it's about to get interactive. So Brooke Williams from Fourfold, who is working with us on the Ipswich Central Revitalisation Project, has got a decent, I was about to say massive, it's because I get really excited about it. She's got a substantial presentation to take us through, but with lots of engagement opportunities. So this is where we are going to ask you to bring your phones out, keep them on silent, but bring your phones out because you're going to need them, because there's going to be questions and there's going to be conversation. Because Brooke is far politer than I am, I'm going to preempt the conversation. Keep your comments to short, bite-sized pieces, because there's a lot of you and we all want to have a say. So when it is time to have a comment, just throw a comment, a quick one, a short one, as if it was a tweet, if you were a tweeter, as if it was a tweet. Keep it short and keep it succinct. But with that, would you please give a studio clap to Brooke Williams?
Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Kat, for that lovely introduction. Let's get myself set up here. 1 second, I actually have to change presentation, so. All right. Thank you. As I said, thank you. It is my pleasure to be here tonight to talk to you about the Ipswich Central Revitalisation Project. And Kat is right. I am a little too polite and will never cut someone off, so I'll let you do that job, Kat. Excellent. So I'm Brooke. I'm with Fourfold Studio, and I am your facilitator tonight, but I'm not on my own. We've got a group of people here who I will ask to interrupt me at any time, to hand the mic around if needed, to point out if there's any questions coming through on the Slido app, which I'll get you all set up on shortly. So I'll just quickly introduce those people that will be helping us. At the start at the back, Erin Marchant, give us a wave, Erin. Erin's with Ipswich City Council. So Erin is running this project and has been for a number of years and doing a fabulous job. So it's a pleasure to work with you, Erin. Who have I got? Catherine. Give us a wave. Catherine is on our team working on this project with an urban design background, has a huge amount of experience coming from the UK and working across Australia, and a huge asset, I think, to this project. Dave, where are you, Dave? Dave Hatherley over here, landscape architect, has a long-standing history with Ipswich Central, has worked on some amazing projects in Ipswich, including, what have we got? Tulma Place, Nicholas Street Precinct, Orion, the open space master plan for North Ipswich, so incredible amount of knowledge and history, having worked in Ipswich for many years. And then, of course, Kat, and I think there's a few other people from council here who also feel free to jump on board and help me facilitate this next hour. So I flicked past the what are we going to be doing today, but I'll just give you a quick recap. Essentially, we will give you an overview of what the project is, and we'll tell you a little bit about our team, but mostly what we want to do tonight is to talk to you, about your business, about your customers, about how we can together create a place that is great to do business, a place that people love and feel connected to and want to come in and experience this place with us. So we've got, as Kat said, a very interactive workshop style experience that we're having today. It feels like we're all spread out, but I do really want the conversation to get going, so feel free to huddle together if that would help. And yeah, we'll get started. Flick. So first of all, I won't have the opportunity to go around the room. Don't worry, Kat, I'm a little bit more on my time than that. But I will quickly just ask everyone to give us a sense of who's in the room. I've got a couple of questions, and because you've now been sitting down for at least half an hour, I'm going to get you to stand up if you answer yes to this question, rather than put your hand up. So up and down. Okay, so who in the room went to school in Ipswich? Excellent. Okay, you can sit back down. You've got to go up and down. Okay, well, if you want to keep standing, you can keep standing, but up and down. Who has now got kids that go to school in Ipswich Central? Did go to school? Did go to school? Puts kids through school? I'll take that. Excellent. Who has a business in Ipswich or Ipswich Central as well? Everyone in Ipswich or has had a business? Yes, all of those things. Who has been to an event in Ipswich Central? Yes. Who has fond memories of Ipswich Central? Who can tell me stories about their parents growing up here? Interesting. We need to be talking to you as well. But at some stage through this journey, is there anyone who didn't stand up? And now you don't want to stand up because I'll really be picking on you, won't you? Have I missed anybody? Does anyone live in Ipswich Central? Yes. Okay, excellent. Then we know that there's not a huge amount of living in this area, and it's wonderful to have you here. Okay, so look, what my point is everybody in this room is an expert on Ipswich Central, and you know more about Ipswich Central than we could ever know coming into Ipswich and working on this project with you. So our role is not to tell you the answers, it's actually to listen and to work with you and to come up with an action plan and help facilitate a process to get the revitalisation of Ipswich Central happening. Now, Slido. So I think as you came through the door, everyone would have been set up. But if you do not have access to a mobile phone, just pop your hand up and Erin will come around with a little brochure that'll get you started. Did everyone get hooked up to Slido? What I can do, hang on. If you hold your phone up, you can scan that and it'll take you directly to Slido. I'm going to give you a second. Once you get in, if you want to start the first activity, and this is to get us going. So if you can't get this working, please put your hand in the air and someone will come and see you. So you'll be presented with a couple of questions there. Which of the following best describes your interest? So you answer that one. How long have you lived in Ipswich? And in a few words, tell us why you do business. Why do you choose to do business in Ipswich Central? Okay, so that first one's not working. I'll let David my tech expert, try to get that one happening. But as you hit submit, your answers should start to feed through. I think it might be because we tested this out and we've moved on from this question to the next one, which is okay. It is? Yeah, but it's not sticking there. Oh, yeah? Oh, no. It's all right. It's okay, we will move on. We will have all of your record come through there. If anything, I might just need to do a refresh. Never mind. All right, is it looking good from your end? Has everyone got that working? Anyone who's struggling? Yeah, it's just not coming up on the screen, but it's all right, we can maybe work through that. So As we talk through this, really what is really important is how we all come together to get Ipswich Central to be revitalised. And we talk a lot about collaborative Ipswich, or who is the team that are working on this project. And yes, we are here for a period of time, but what we're really interested in is that yellow ring that's in the centre there. It's actually about how our community work with council, work with our businesses, work with the private sector, and how we all come together to create a place that we love and that is thriving. And so that outer ring is the people that you as a community will choose to call on at different times throughout the life cycle of Ipswich to help provide different opinions based on different expertise that you might be looking for. But what we're doing here is we're setting up a system that is going to be for a long term. And so we've been on this journey for quite a while. I know some of you in the room may have met me previously over at the Civic Centre when we worked on we had a couple of stakeholder sessions talking to you about what you thought would be what needed to happen to really revitalise Ipswich Central. And the interesting thing is what you came back and told us is how this project has been shaped. So there were two key things that came out of that. The first of them was about a vision and everyone being able to get behind one singular vision and feel a part of that. And then the second one was about seeing action right now. Let's do things right now. What can we be creating right now? Let's not just have long-term plans. So we've created that, and we've been working through a program since the beginning of this year. We've been building on the engagement that's been done to date, and we have been having additional conversations, one-on-one conversations with both internal, which would be council stakeholders, and external stakeholders, a number of people in the industry, and again, some people in this room. And so we have recently kicked off our engagement, and tonight is the very first event, so thank you for coming along. And we've also got a number of other community and engagement opportunities over the next couple of weeks. The area that we're looking at is showing up on the screen there, so including the North Ipswich Rail Yards, Limestone Park, Queen's Park, the university. It's a very large area, but we are also focusing in a lot of detail, and this is what I want to talk to you about tonight, is these two key areas, so Ipswich Centre Core and the top of town, which you will all be familiar with those areas. And again, it's a two-streamed project, and so while we are focusing on the place planning aspect of this program tonight, we are also working on what we're calling the Ipswich Central Framework, and that really picks up on that vision that I was talking about, the alignment between state government, local government, the private sector, the community, everybody coming together to have a shared vision around the future of Ipswich Central and really understanding who is Ipswich Central, what's our point of difference, what are we working and striving towards. But then supporting that will be these two action plans, and I'll get into a bit of detail about what they are. But the idea is that we're really painting a strong picture, we're building confidence, we're creating a place where investment is an attractive offer. And so while this diagram looks quite simple, it's actually going to take a very big collaborative effort. Council cannot do this alone. Everybody, if we're serious about the revitalisation of Ipswich Central, everybody is going to have a role to play. So, again, it's obviously council, our community, and the people that live within Ipswich. It's our investors and our private sector. It's the state and federal government levels. But of course, it's you as businesses. How do you create your business? How do you interact with the street? How do you bring people into your shop or your cafe or your business? How do we together create that environment that people want to work and live in Ipswich Central? So, yep.
And while we do all that, how do we ensure that Ipswich Central stays Ipswich, not some other nondescript suburban centre that could look like any other? Like protecting what is special about Ipswich is crucial.
Absolutely. Which is why locals need to be at the centre of this process, and why we really want to make sure that what we're doing here is something that's different. This isn't your typical master plan, and it's not a typical streetscape upgrade. What we are putting together here is a program of collaboration. It's going to be long term. There will be something that ties it all together, but we're in this for the journey. And so, I think all of us who have been brought along this journey have experienced those projects where it is a typical master plan or it is a typical streetscape upgrade, and we've experienced what will happen if we don't get everyone behind those projects. So I thought this was interesting. We're here tonight to talk at the business briefing, and obviously there's a big focus on business. So I would often talk to you about community, but tonight I really want to talk to you about your customers and that customer experience and also your employees. So what is it that would bring people into Ipswich Central, the people that you want coming into your businesses, that you want working for you? How do we create the environment that gets that group of people coming in and staying in Ipswich Central regularly, visiting again and again, not just coming in on one-offs, leaving your store and wandering up the street on foot outside of a car to experience other things that are happening in the area? How do we create that place where you know if you go into Ipswich Central or top of town on a Monday or a Tuesday night, you can get a meal after 7, you can get a coffee after 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We want to have a place that people love to come to and they can come here regularly, that there's a diversity of offering. They don't know exactly what they're going to do when they come, but they know that they'll have a good time. So that's what we're trying to do, is create that place. And we really want to know from you, who is it that you're trying to attract in here that would support your business, and what do we need to do to get them to come? So we often, this is actually a diagram that was put together by a CEO of one of the Victorian cities in city of Port Phillip. And what he's trying to describe here is something that I think is familiar to many activity centres and main streets globally. This is a global issue of, you know, where we start to see profits margins declining. And of course, what we do and what we would naturally do is we look at ways that we can attract customers into our stores. So we might provide incentives to get them in there. And this is natural, of course, but then what happens over time is there's other businesses in the street that can't necessarily keep up. And so we start to see some vacancies. Once we start to see vacancies, then that investor confidence drops. And then we start to see more vacancies. And over time, the sense of place and that sense of identity starts to degrade. And we end up in this constantly perpetuating cycle of decline. And so what do we do when that happens? So often we turn to major capital works or physical changes. It's very easy to look outside your shop and say, well, it's because there's not enough trees, or it's because the pavement's tired. It's very, very easy to look at those things. And the reason I do what I do is because I've experienced it, where we've thought that the answer was to change the streetscape, to put lots of money into creating these beautiful new spaces. And the reality is, even when we get it right, it doesn't always mean that we get the place that we're looking for. And so what you're looking at here is a project that I worked on. It's also my home community. The top image is the montage of the place that we were trying to create, and the bottom image is what it regularly looks like, and I promise I didn't just take that photo at 5 a.m. in the morning. So it's incredible, but it goes to show it isn't just design. I know the designers on this project, and I think they have actually done a very good job. They've got beautiful landscape architecture, it's modern, there's lots of greenery, there's cross-block links, all these things that we do when we're designing, but it still fails to get the businesses engaged in the spaces and the community into the space. And so what do we need to do to flip it? How do we go from having that cycle of decline into a cycle of growth? And so what we need to do is come together, let's work together to create new demand, to think about what we can do together to create a shared vision for a place, to come up with a set of shared actions that we can all get behind and all believe in to drive visitation again, to reconnect with those customers, with that community that were coming in regularly. What do we need to do to get that to happen? How can we increase visitation so that this place is full of life and all of a sudden people are knocking down council's doors to be able to invest and put forward development applications, and we start to see people come back into the centre of Ipswich? And of course it's going to be multifaceted. We often talk about, this is a bit of jargon, sorry Kat, but we talk about hardware and software. So hardware are the things, the streets, the parks, the public spaces, and software is all those other things that often get forgotten. We almost exclusively focus on the hardware in the built environment or design and planning industry. So it's the way that we use and inhabit a space, the events, the life, the identity, you know what I mean? And if we get the hardware and we don't get the software, sometimes these places win awards, but like I said, doesn't mean they're great places. But often we see these places like this where they've got no hardware necessarily, they're thrown together, but they actually work, and they for some reason things just work. But what we're really trying to do is bring both of those things together to create places that are very well designed but are full of life, just as we'd intended. And so, again, if you look at this top one, I don't know if I've got a pointer. There we go, I do. This is what happens if we just focus on the hardware. We create this livable, which I'm sure you've all heard these terms, but what we want to do is create places that we love. And if we want to create places that we love, we need civic pride. We need people to be connected and attached to these places. And for that to happen, we need locals behind it for starters, but we also need to consider those software aspects, that programming. And the other thing I think that we need to remember is that process is so important. I said at the beginning of the night that you as community and you as people that have lived here and have a relationship with Ipswich will always know more than me about Ipswich Central. And so our process needs to start with local people. We need to bring you into the journey to understand how we can get it right. Then we can provide some assistance. And then when we step away, you need to be ready to take carriage, because it's also that long-term longevity of places. How do we get businesses engaged in curating what happens on the street, in caring for our public spaces, in managing them, in working together to promote, to spread the word of this place and how great it is. All of those things are absolutely critical to creating really successful places that survive and that are sustainable. And so when we talk about place plans, we're talking about doing that. We're bringing all of those things together. We've got 3 aspects in that we're considering. We talk about shaping places, which is the kind of design, the look and the feel. We talk about managing places, which is how we care, connect, come together to organise ourselves around what that might be. And then we talk about activate, again, a little bit of jargon, but I guess we could talk about that being, you know, driving visitation, bringing people in, having customers. How do we get that to happen? There's also a very big role here, obviously, for council to play. And what's really important here is that for council, it's about how they can support this. What can they do? It's systems, it's processes, it's streamlining that, it's making it easy. And it's also having that bigger picture of how do we make sure that we're facilitating the right sort of growth and investment in Ipswich Central. So all of these things will be looked at through this project, not necessarily in detail within those place plans. They're more about the kind of business level of interaction. Now, okay, I can stop talking. That was the big part of the presentation over. Thank you for bearing with me. Who are we attracting? What we would like to do in this next activity is understand who your customer is. These were after some research, we put together some customer profiles based on social data and census data and stakeholder conversations, and we developed these sort of profiles. So very, very quickly, it's about young families. We're looking at areas outside growth area, you know, how can we get people to be coming into Ipswich Central? So young families, transient professionals, you've got nearly half of your population in the greater Ipswich area travelling to Brisbane for work. So what can we be doing to get some of those people to maybe stay and work in Ipswich Central? And how can we get them and their families in here on weekends? We've got the Ipswich Proud, our you know, long-standing Ipswich community, yes, exactly, that are here tonight, that have time and want to be engaged and reconnected, want to share their stories, their incredible stories about things that have happened here over time. And I've been so lucky to hear so many of those, and I think that there's huge opportunity to share that with the rest of the community. We've got part-time creatives and Future Ipswich. So Future Ipswich is really looking at the youth. You've again surrounded by amazing schools. You've got the university. So what can we be doing to engage with those young people? And that's so important when we start to think about things like an evening economy and weekends and you know, diversity in our city centres, things that will make this city thrive at all times of day. And then, of course, part-time creatives. Again, it was like nearly 30% of people are working part-time, which means not all of them are in the creative industries, but a lot of them, more than usual, are doing really interesting creative things, interesting hobbies, or having connected in some way to arts and creativity or motorsports. So all of these really things that make Ipswich different, to Kat's point, things that make Ipswich what Ipswich is, Ipswich Central. And so the next Slido question, and I'm going to, while you're doing this one, I'm actually going to get the microphones to go around, and I want to hear from you, and maybe even have a quick chat with your neighbours. What is your customer? Who is the people that you're trying to draw into Ipswich Central? In an ideal world, who would be here? And potentially that's everyone, but let's sort of unpack that a little bit, and then think about what is it that might extend their stay. If they've come in to see you, what would make them walk out of your store and go somewhere else? Or if you're more in the industry of employment, what is it that might make your place the best place to work because you're situated in Ipswich Central? I don't know. It might be. I know. We tested all this. It was all working a minute ago. You're going to try and reset it. It's okay. You're all getting it on your screens. You're just not seeing each other's answers. Those of you that can see the answers, Dave, have you got the answers up on your screen there? Do you want to share some of the insights? What's coming through?
We've got 6 now. Keep them. Beautiful. Thank you. Everybody hear me? Yep. Keep them coming. So what do we got? Entrepreneurial women, homeowners and investors, outdoor dining. Ooh, now they're coming thick and fast. CBD workers, people looking for bargains at op shops, middle-aged men and women in nostalgia, outdoor dining patrons, family and couples, investors, young couples, CBD workers, middle-aged men and women, values aligned, community groups, families.
So while we're getting the tech, I'm hearing middle-aged a couple of times. Tell me more about that. Who are your middle-aged customers? Why do we want them? Do we want all middle-aged?
To try and get it working, and I can.
A certain demographic? Well, actually, that's the distinction. Are they customers that we want or customers that are here? So who are you looking for, Steve?
25 to, I probably should say 80 these days because we live a lot older, but it was 65. But in the flooring industry, in the home renovating industry, so we are. But it's I think where a lot of people look at middle age is that when you look at it, as I said, from 25 to 70, the 25-year-old will spend 50% of the 70-year-old. So the 45-year-old will probably do the same thing as the 70-year-old, because we do see a lot of the 65 to 70s spending, buying the best that they've ever bought in their lives, where you probably should be thinking about downgrading a bit, but probably the 35 to 40 to 50s are now starting to buy a lot better quality as well. So I think what we've seen in Ipswich over the last 20 years is a big change in affordability for quality. And that's right across the board, not just in my industry. So once upon a time, we were known as a bit of a Mart city, but as far as quality went, and I could say value of the home dollar, but we have definitely elevated that quite highly in the last 20 years.
So let's say you've got a couple who have just bought some very expensive flooring from you, or they've placed their order. They've thought about it for a long time. What do they do after they've left your store? Do they go out for a drink? Do they get in the car and go home? And what would you like them to do?
We do actually. We get a lot of comments about that sort of stuff because we market our business as a destination shopping precinct, which I think is something that we need to try and do as a collaborative through Ipswich in general. With the mall, the top of town, we need to build a collaborative of people and businesses that will market this precinct as a destination, because people won't just come here. So what we find is a lot of the clients we do have in our shop will often talk about it and say, oh, when did these restaurants turn up? They weren't here before, and they say, "Oh, let's go over and get a coffee after we finished here," and they go and get a coffee and they have lunch, and often will come back over and tell us what they think about it. So we do get a fair bit of that, and even now a bit more of the shopping, because we have a little bit of a couple of retail shops up the top of town, like Jojo's and that, and a lot of the ladies do love going up there because our main probably more the female side of it. The men don't usually care too much for the floors, and but
I just bought some furniture and they just after it only bought my father.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's but no, we found that that area is very big, and the more we can grow as a community, the more people will come in. But the biggest thing, we need to get them in here in the first place. So it's about getting that destination marketing out there and continuing it, not just doing one-offs.
Yeah.
Stephen, may I ask you to pass the mic back to Catherine, who's going to take it to the person who's going to tell us something about nighttime economy. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does the nighttime economy mean in Ipswich Central? What do we want to see?
Someone shy who doesn't want to talk.
Yeah, Chris.
Paying rent for 24 hours a day and actually being able to trade 24 hours a day.
Pay rent for 24 hours a day, let's make money out of it 24 hours a day. Yeah.
I think Dave just had a coffee shop open around the corner from him 24 hours a day. Do you think you could get coffee 24 hours a day in Ipswich Central?
Coffee 24 hours a day.
What would you do? No sleeping.
That would be dangerous, but you could get an espresso martini.
Yes, hey.
Thank you, Erin. Brooke, keep
It's
doing
all right,
that.
I'll take either.
Yeah.
So thank you. That is really good to share that customer experience, and hopefully the next activity will continue to follow through with that concept. We thought it might be useful just very quickly, I'd rather hear from you than talk at you, but just very quickly share a couple of different examples. And these are examples of case studies that have happened at a variety of different scales. And so this first one was one that I actually had the pleasure of working on. It was on the Sunshine Coast with the council up there. They were delivering a new town square. Does anyone know or been to Palmwoods? Yeah, a few people. So it's a pretty small hinterland town on the Sunshine Coast, and it struggles to compete because everybody knows Maroochydore and everybody knows Noosa and everyone knows Mullaney, but Palmwoods is sitting in there near all of those things and didn't have a really strong identity. So number one, they needed a strong identity. They didn't have a town square, and so the council was helping with some amenity upgrade, but the council also do not have the capacity to activate that town square on a regular basis. It was absolutely critical that the community knew how to activate it, that it was built and designed with them and for them, and that at the end of the day, once it was delivered, they were the ones that loved it and used it regularly. And so our role was to help build that, and we had a very easy job because it was an extremely passionate, excited community. But what they did was come together as a community, businesses, residents, creatives, and I'm talking residents were literally, opening up their front yards if they were fronting onto this main street, to create a 5-week-long, what they called the Village Harvest. The reason they did this was because they identified that during the construction, they really wanted to be able to support the local businesses that were fronting the park that were going to struggle a little bit through that construction period. And so the whole community came together to create this event. They aligned it to other things that were happening at a regional scale and an arts event that was happening so that they could leverage the promotion. They set up one Facebook page. Previously, they had like 6. They started to promote and use that word of mouth, and they came together to create 60 events over this 5-week period, aligned to things like wayfinding to try to direct people in and around the construction works. And what they did through this process was they've actually, not only do they now have a range of different events that they have been able to relocate into their brand new park, their new town square, but they've created a legacy event. And this event happens once a year, and it's been running for a number of years pre-COVID. But it is something that brings the community together and really identifies Palmwoods and puts it on the map of that regional scale. Another really great example is over in WA. This is a group that began through some businesses, and I put this one up and I've put the web address there. I'd actually recommend you jump on and actually have a look at this afterwards. But they identified that it was about coming together and creating this really great place for them to live that connected their community. And I think they talked a bit about, let's work with what we've got and protect what we've got. And so it's really about showcasing businesses and supporting those local businesses, even though there's community members involved. But one of the big things they did was that they recognised that they didn't have an evening economy, and particularly on a Monday night, which is when everyone said no one's ever going to go into the town centre. And so they held this twilight markets, and they now get 3,000 to 4,000 people in every Monday, and most of the businesses are open. So incredible effort. That's just one of their projects. And then this one, a bit of a bigger one. A lot of you have probably, hopefully had the chance to go and see Fish Lane, particularly recently since they've done this new space underneath the rail. Now this is something that has had a very strong partnership between the developers, ARIA, and Brisbane City Council, and it has been a long journey, but it has absolutely been driven by locals and by, to the point that ARIA are actually based in and around the area, where what they've done is they've created this. It was previously a service lane, but a lot of businesses backed onto this service lane, and so they've converted it into a space that's now a shared zone, and they've worked with all of those businesses, over 20 businesses, to create this incredible environment that would never have been seen by people, and now it's a destination. So it's brought something back and given back to the community, but it's also really helped create a viable and a lot of business opportunity in and around there. So there certainly isn't any vacancies on Fish Lane, I don't think, actually, at the moment. I should have checked that one before I said it. But it's absolutely shown that those partnerships can really create places that are unique and that do something different. And the interesting thing about this one was just that they had to be innovative in every aspect, including in their model of management. And so they actually, that lane has actually been leased back to ARIA Property, who are now going to help curate and create that program of ongoing activation, working with those businesses as a partnership. And so the common thread, I think, in all of that is very much that it's collective and it's collaborative. It's got to be locally driven and inspired. That we want partnerships between businesses and creatives and our councils and our different government organisations. All of these things coming together is what makes this work. So we've been, as I said, building on the engagement work that's been developed over a number of years. We've been having these conversations with stakeholders, and through all of that work we have done our best to put together 8 values that we have interpreted as your definition of what Ipswich Central is into the future, what we want to be. Now, we've had some feedback to say that these may change, and there's an activity I can point you to jump online and give us your feedback about this, but I'll run through them quite quickly. So the first is the cultural hub and traditional heart of Ipswich. A place of memories where memories are made, and this is very much paying homage to the heritage and the story. We're constantly hearing really proud and connected stories about Ipswich Central, and a lot of it as well is about those beautiful buildings that you have here, which is a real asset, and giving them a new life, an innovative life. Giving them another purpose and bringing them as a feature of your town. With lively streets is about how we can get people out of shops and out of cars and onto streets, walking around. And that also encapsulates things like bringing residential and having more people living in our city centre. That's well connected, and that's by all types of connectivity, so definitely cars, but also public transport, cycling, walking. How do we make it comfortable? We often hear that it's a hard place to move around on foot, so what can we do to improve that? A place that celebrates the Bremer. Again, just hearing some incredible stories about how the community used to engage much more actively with the river and what we could do to reconnect with the river. As with most cities, there has been a period where we've turned our backs on the river a little bit. So what can we be doing to better connect with and really value that as an asset? That is cool, green and in touch with nature. So obviously some of your parks are the most incredible, and they're right in your city centre, which is you know, something that is a huge level of amenity that you can leverage. But there are things that we need to do, and we need to connect them along our streets and bring people from the parks into our centre areas to help build that kind of connectivity between everything. A place to build and do business, and this came through incredibly strong. How do we make it easy so that everybody wants to come and do business in Ipswich Central? That this is a place of opportunity where you know you can start your new business and you can grow the business that you've got. And a place that is young, dynamic, and welcomes all ages. And so this is really future-proofing Ipswich Central. You're not static, you're not conservative, you're growing, there's opportunity, you're going to move with the times, we're going to be innovative. So all of those things, and I hope that I've done my best to capture them, but that's all come from feedback that we've had from community. So what we would like to do now with all of that is this is the big part, is get your ideas about what you think you would like to see in Ipswich Central, and particularly looking at top of town and Ipswich Centre core. So what we'll actually do, and hopefully most of you have been able to connect into the Shape Your Ipswich page. So if you jump onto Shape Your Ipswich and you scroll down, I think it's the last activity if you're on a mobile, there's an activity there called Share Your Ideas. And the... It's not Slido. No. Jump onto Shape Your Ipswich. So ipswichcentral.com.au is the address. Or you can scan the QR code on your post. No, not that one. That'll take you there and you can just go out. But if you use your postcard and then scroll to the last activity. Now, we really appreciate you doing this. These activities can go wild with the community inputting in, but they always need someone to start them off. So there's not a lot of ideas on there yet. You're our first group that we're really getting on board here. So I've heard a number of ideas just walking around the room earlier, and we really want you to start to think about what they might be. While you're thinking through those ideas and getting yourself set up, we'd also like to just have the conversation around the room and have a bit of a discussion. How do you do it? Yeah, okay. So does anyone have an idea that they'd like to share? If you pop your hand up, we'll bring the mic to you. An idea for Ipswich Central? Or for top of town? Yes, okay, great. You do, great. Okay.
I'm from out of town. I've been here about 6 or 7 years, and I know Ipswich, with all the heritage buildings, is just amazing. And I think most of the things that were outlined is sort of pretty much in line what I was going to suggest anyway. I just think that you can't put all your eggs in one basket and think that, you know, you can have a couple of businesses and that's going to draw people in, or just have a Saturday craft market and on a Saturday morning, and that's going to bring, you need to be multi-layered. But I was talking to David earlier and also yourself earlier when, before the event sort of started, and ultimately, it needs to be multi-layered. You've got your carpet shop like this gentleman, and then you've got your news agencies, but I don't know if Ipswich is quite ready for 24/7, but it definitely needs to be at set some times of the week. If we've got the population and the infrastructure, or we should have the infrastructure to be able to at least have the coffee shops, 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning going through, and having the restaurants or having a precinct that's, directed towards all ages, and ultimately, between Mondays and say Thursday or Wednesdays and Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and some Sundays.
So do you think it would work to have businesses coordinate opening times so that they can support each other and then promote some of those times that might be out of the box, a bit unusual, pushing it a little bit further?
At the moment, I think everyone could agree, as soon as it hits 4:30 or 5 o'clock, all the icon building people just jump in their cars, just leave. There's nothing, as you said, there's a lot of professionals working out of town, but there's also a lot of professionals who are outside of town or on the fringe of Ipswich. And as soon as it hits 4:30 or 5 o'clock, there's no pubs or restaurants, or, well, very, very scarce restaurants, and the ones that are awesome. But it comes down to having the choice, the variety of choices. So, it's about building a hub. It's not actually, having one restaurant isn't going to bring people into the thing. It's like, it's having like 10 or 15 restaurants and they're not going to really compete against each other. It's ultimately, creating a hub and ultimately, giving a destination for people to come to. It can't be just putting all your eggs in a basket. It has to be multifaceted, and you've got your icon workers and everything like that during the week.
Yeah.
But hits 5 o'clock or something like that. Well, you need the restaurants or the bars, even if they're just once a week or something like that, and they have a catch up. And
Okay, thank you. So more diversity. And was there another couple over here? Sorry, I just don't want to get around to everybody.
Thank you. So I've been living in Ipswich now, coming on to 18 months, but I was also just luckily that you gave the example, living in Inglewood, where that market was held. So regularly, my husband and I would go to that market on a Monday, and what it didn't really show there was that was a main street. This is a main street that leads straight out of a city. So as a community, they also got together to be comfortable with the fact that they were going to close down this major street and disrupt. And something in top of town, that would work perfectly if you can get people behind it as well, because it's that perfect shared space of going around. It wasn't just market stalls, it was families who'd come and they'd have their dinner there. It was people would bring their pets along. There were many people with pets, and we know that Ipswich is all about the dog. So
were you involved in any of that in terms of trying to convince people that some change or some different things would be?
Yeah, well, we're just we're very big on driving our community and where we live. So we just used to plan with our friends. We don't have children, but we're very big on planning our friends to go, let's go out for dinner there.
Amazing.
Let's go make our night there.
Yeah.
And even though you're only sitting on like plastic chairs, nobody cared. And really, like they shut off the street, but there was still one lane coming each way.
Yeah.
So there's always these cars, and there was never an issue or saying people always in the community, like when it first started, like, oh, someone's going to get hit by a car or something.
Yeah.
But just these
great.
things work.
Okay. Oh, thank you. That's great.
So I just want to say that
would
top
work.
of town, perfect space. And then I just wanted to touch on as well around the nightlife. Like we very much enjoy it, again, because we weren't locals. We have a lot of visitors that come. But in Ipswich, in the nightlife, it is the one thing we are missing is... Sorry, but someone to go... So go get a drink at a small bar. Yeah. And I know that sounds... But we've moved into a street in Silkstone, and there's a couple across the road from us with no kids. There's a single person down the street, no kids, and there's this real community that's coming through that are looking for something beyond just the family style as well. And I'm just don't believe in coincidences. I don't believe I just happen to move into that street that happens to have these no children, and that there's potentially this market that we're not hitting who are tired, after painting their house all day, just want to go meet somewhere for a quick drink.
Yeah. And even those I've seen happen and be very successful as little tiny pop-ups to test and trial until it becomes a viable opportunity.
And also just to add, I think that really Ipswich could use more of a focus on local produce. Like you can't, unless I just don't know of it, but I don't know of any good delicatessens where you can go get, good cured meats and local cheeses and stuff. Like there's like the Kenilworth, the dairy there, we love their cheeses and stuff, but you just can't get this produce anywhere in Ipswich that I know of, and I think that attracts
some great ideas for the business entrepreneur, if anyone's looking for some ideas. Excellent. Thank you for sharing. That's great. And do we have one more? I think we...
Anne-Marie Walton, sorry, I've come in a little late, so if I'm repeating something.
No.
What we just heard there I thought was really interesting, the idea of pop-ups, but I also think themes. So we heard about the dinks, I think that's what it used to be called, double income, no kids.
Yep.
There's probably a whole lot of different frames now, but then there are other families, there are other groups with the dogs, and the fact that you've got opportunities for pop-ups and theming particular days or evenings, and even showcasing whether it's different schools or whether it's different social enterprises or the like. If somebody comes to showcase, they bring their friends, they bring their family, so that brings more people, and then they see other like-minded people. And so potentially these pop-ups could be themed towards the needs of the groups that tie in with the strategic plan.
Yes, that's a great idea. Thank you. Okay, I will keep moving because I am conscious that I've only got 10 minutes and I would like to let you out on time. So just very, very quickly, I'm going to flick through an example of a place plan just so you can get a bit of a sense of what it is we're going to be creating here. So the idea is that we're creating 2 groups and we're calling for people to apply to be part of these groups. They will involve businesses, but we're hoping to have a range of people that are presenting a diversity of Ipswich Central's community, so lots of different perspectives. And those people will essentially become the champions of that place, but they will reach out to their networks to help get this to happen. So it won't be that there's a group of 10 people doing everything. It's a group of people that are going to help us guide that discussion, that are going to go back and talk to their community and bring feedback to us. And then when it comes to action and delivery, they're the people that will be really rallying the troops and the volunteers and getting things happening. So that's how that will work, and we would love for you to apply. If you have the time, if you're interested, if you're engaged and very much wanting to see change in Ipswich Central. So what that looks like as a plan and as a document, this is a place, so I just showed that one in case you want to look this up after as I'm going to flick through, but the City of Vincent, if you look that up, these guys probably know exactly what I'm talking about. So this is, they basically have one of these plans for every one of their activity centres, and they theme the plans around these three things: activity, movement and character. And together they create a set of actions that they agree with. And it doesn't necessarily mean every one of the actions is going to be delivered, but when the opportunities arise, they know that they're the priorities that the community have agreed on, and they're able to secure funding and resources to be able to do that because they have the community behind them. And they know they're doing something that's going to be treasured. So that's the type of document that we're looking to produce, the kind of strategy document that will guide community action and partnerships with council moving forward for the next short term, so very much short-term actions in a 1 to 5 year time frame. So I'm not going to flick over to the Slido, but I will ask you to do this one. If you can give us some feedback. Do you think this is going to work? Do you think this is going to be good for Ipswich Central? And if you love it, what is it that you love about it? If you don't think it is, then what do you think we could be doing to improve this process? So while you're doing that, I am also going to tell you about the next activity, because I actually would just love to have a little bit of a conversation about this. But essentially what we want to do is hear your pledge to Ipswich Central. You might not have the time or the capacity to be on a working group. 100% understand. Everyone is busy people. But you probably have something. You probably have some materials, some time. You might have some ideas or a vacant space, a laneway or a driveway that you think is actually, you know what, you could do something with that. You might be able to sponsor a project or provide some time to volunteer on a project. So whatever you think it is that you can contribute to this project, to creating this place that we love, let us know. And you can do that on Slido, or you also can grab one of the bits of paper. There's like a little brochure on your way out and fill that in. Okay, so that is pretty much the end. The only other things I wanted to just quickly touch on is just what you can do from here. So we've talked about how you can sign up to the Ipswich Central Partnership. That is also on the little program that you were given as you walked through, but you can do that via ipswichcentral.com.au. You can also jump online, and there's other activities that we haven't gone through tonight that you can fill in and you can use to engage with, to give us some feedback on those values that I ran through, for example. Spark Lounge is something that I definitely wanted to talk to you about very quickly, and we talked, the idea of showcasing businesses came up. This is an opportunity for that. So it's a community engagement event about this project, and we want to get the community together to talk about ideas for Ipswich Central, Ipswich Centre Core and top of town, but we actually want to host the event in partnership with some of our local businesses to showcase your produce, to put on an event, to do some music, whatever it might be. So if you're interested in getting involved, jump on and you'll be able to see some information about how to do that on ipswichcentral.com.au. And that